Thank you, sir. So I got a story. Everybody in this room pays taxes. So one of the things that happened last year is had a friend of mine lost his business. The government came in and seized his bank account. He wound up losing his house, and he could not get any credit or anything, and the only people that had the ability to do that is the IRS. Now, it took him about 7 months to basically get everything fixed. Basically what wound up happening, his accountant died during tax season. And instead of notifying him, one of the assistants at the firm decided to file all of his returns and stuff for him. When they filed it for him, they also filed, unfortunately, the wrong address. So all of the IRS notifications and everything went to a different address. He never knew about it until his employees went to go cash their checks, and the bank said, sorry, there's no funds available. And when he called his banker, it was like, oh my God, I've gotten everything done and now I have to unscrew it. So from that aspect, that's what Tax Titans is basically coming to the rescue for. There is no way right now for you to find an accountant online that helps you basically qualify and make sure that that person knows what they're doing. Our solution is we came up with a marketplace, just like Uber, Airbnb, Priceline.com, that allows you to be able to vet and qualify who's going to do your taxes, and for the first time in history, have price transparency. The app is like any other app that you use on your phone. You fill out the information, you get a price, you get to review the person's credentials. Our market that we know of, because taxes is something that has existed forever and the government is never going to stop collecting taxes, is about $14 billion. We know that the addressable market that we're looking at right now is basically $340 million that the platform can go after. And immediately right now in the 4 states that we're targeting, we're looking at basically making $190 million over the next 2 to 3 years. So how do we get there, and how do we become a $100 million annually reoccurring revenue company? Well, right now, 70% of all the accounting firms in the United States are one-man shows or one-woman shows. They do about $200,000 a year in billing, okay? And there are currently about 500 firms that we want to basically acquire, because all of those guys have been trying to retire over the last 10 years. Basically, for every $100,000 that we get from a firm over a 10-year period, we make about $400 in net revenue over the lifetime value of that client. We're also, everybody hears in the news everything about AI. We're also now working with people that in Silicon Valley are building AI models so that the tax accountant has an assistant that basically runs through and helps you compile and get all the data for your taxes. We're the first ones to ever do this. For the first time in history, you get to review the credentials of the accountants. We're free to all the small businesses to use. And for all of the financial folks out there that are doing taxes, we give them 90% of their bill. If they work for H&R Block or they work for an accounting firm, they only get about 20% of the overall bill. The other 80% goes to management. Our team is a bunch of veterans and tax professionals. One of the keynote people on here is a gentleman by the name of Jürgen Karner. He is in Estonia. If anybody has used a CRM application called Pipedrive that had an exit for $1.6 billion, he's the guy who made it. When he found out what we were doing with small businesses here in the United States, he wanted to jump on board, and he is one of the owners of the company. So our timeline, in a very quick amount of time, last tax season we noticed that this problem existed. We then built a platform with Worthwhile, who's one of the sponsors. We got accepted into a fintech accelerator out of Charlotte, North Carolina called RepTech Labs. We then launched it, put 150 firms onto the platform, and we have survived our first tax season. We have seen that The people who have gone on the platform, they have saved anywhere from 30 to 50% on getting their taxes done. The thing that we're doing now, going through May to November, is acquiring all the accounting firms that would like to retire, paying them for 1 times the value of their company. And then next year, 2024, we plan on launching what is called Titan AF, Titan Accounting and Financial Services. It is, no. And that is going to be similar to, if somebody is familiar with Angie.com or Angie's List, where they, over the last 20 years, have created a platform for homeowners to get vetted and qualified people working in their house. We are developing a platform for small business owners to have vetted and qualified services in order for them to grow their business. So, we're looking for investments as we're going through into 2024. One of the things we say is just like eBay started selling Beanie Babies, Amazon started as a used bookseller. Tax Titans, this year we started with taxes, but our goal is to be the one-stop shop for every business that uses to outsource to professional services like Wikipedia and Google. Our vision in the next couple of decades is that when someone has a small business and if they're looking for a solution, they're just going to say, well, let's go to Titan. Thank you. Any questions? Yes, sir.
How do you differentiate between what you're doing and a lot of the kind of race to the bottom freelance?
So, for instance, Upworks and stuff.
Yeah,
Perfect
exactly,
example.
Exactly.
So, Upworks, you basically say, hey, I'm looking for someone to do my taxes.
Right.
Okay. There's no questionnaire that you're giving. So there's no way for the person who is giving you a quote on your taxes to know whether or not you're doing good work, not enough good work. And the most important thing, you as a consumer have no idea to know if the person is even qualified. So with our platform, they have to have a minimum of 2 years of experience. They have to have what is called an EFIN number, which means they have been fingerprinted and background checked by the FBI and the IRS, okay? So that you know that the person that you're dealing with is qualified, has been doing it for 2 years, and you have a criteria that you can put in your search to make sure that they have errors in admissions insurance, meaning that if something goes wrong with your return, they're covered under insurance so you get your payout. So in identifying the fact that people are like, hey, I don't know if the guy at H&R Block was bagging groceries at Walmart last week. Now I have the ability to look at the person's background, check out their LinkedIn profile, their website, and be able to have their EFIN number to be able to find out if they've had anything basically placed against them. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Is there a plan that targets the community that doesn't use tax accountants already?
In regards to?
And when they're filing their taxes as individuals?
Yes. So any individual or small business can use it. We have targeted small businesses first because they are the people who are usually paying the most amount for their tax return, and they're the people usually writing a check to the government. Most people who are just a W-2 employee, unless they're making hundreds of thousands of dollars, are getting a refund back from the government. And there are plenty of platforms like TurboTax where if I just have a W-2 and my license, that I'm going to pay that a small fee and then get my taxes. Our platform is designed and going after the 32 million small businesses and growing in the United States that has to pay for their taxes to get done. But there's nothing to prevent anybody from saying, hey, I want to spend $200, say, to get my taxes done because I'd rather have a CPA do it opposed to somebody at an H&R Block. Yes, sir.
There's a big worry about the government hiring 80,000 IRS.
Yes, sir. So great question.
My next question, the fear is they're going after the small business, not the big companies, because the big companies have attorneys, they can fight them all day long.
Correct.
But the small businesses, do you feel like that's a true statement?
I know it's a true statement. I'm going to take a little bit of extra time here. I'm actually flying out to the National Association of the AICPA conference in Vegas on Sunday. I'll be speaking out there for 4 days. For everybody who has seen in the news, the 1099-K that was basically changed in the last legislation for the COVID relief bill. They realize that the IRS and the government that there are 20 million gig economy people who are currently receiving funds electronically through PayPal, Venmo, so on and so forth. And right now they're only being reported to the taxpayer and the IRS if they were making $20,000 or more, and if they had 200 transactions. So if I as a taxpayer only made $10,000, then I wasn't given any paperwork that I'd received it, and I could basically not file it with my taxes. The IRS said, hey, we are literally losing about $50 billion in tax revenue not making this a requirement. So they reduced the requirement from $20,000 in that 1099K, and they've reduced it all the way down to $600.
That makes sense to me, sure.
So when they're telling you that they're only going after the billionaires, and the only thing they're changing is the reporting of a 1099K going from $20,000 to $600, they're hiring 80,000 IRS agents to go after everybody who does Etsy, eBay, Uber. And I know that for a fact because it was supposed to be implemented this tax season. It got delayed for 1 year from the IRS because every tax accountant in the United States who is currently overworked told the IRS, if you enact it this year, we will be so overwhelmed by the people that are coming in to get their taxes done, we will strike. And if you don't know anything about the IRS, they collect your money, but they don't do any of the processing. And if all of the tax folks were to go on strike tomorrow, literally the government would fail to collect $1. So I hope that answers the question. So yes, they are hiring 87,000 IRS agents, and good luck to them because there aren't 87,000 people out there eligible, so or qualified. Any other questions? Yeah.
Last one. You survived your first year. What were the biggest takeaways from your first year?
Our biggest takeaway this year is people don't know anything about taxes. Quite honestly, if I had $1 for every time someone said to me, oh, well, I have to have a CPA file my taxes for me. I'm like, no. I myself, I'm a recovering accountant. I have a degree in accounting. I have sat for the CPA exam. I did not know in the United States, in order to be qualified to do your taxes, fill out a form for you, ask you for money, and file it to the IRS, this is what I need to do. I need to pay $36 and get a PTIN number. I don't have to have insurance. I don't have to be qualified. I could know absolutely nothing about taxes. We joke around internally. The IRS doesn't care who the bag man is, just as long as they get your money and they give it to the government. That is the biggest thing we've learned this year, is people go, I don't know anything about taxes, I just know that I pay them. And I pay my accountant and I don't argue with the price, because it's like paying the mafia for protection. I don't want to get audited, so therefore I just give them the money and pray that I don't get audited. Yes, sir.
With your platform and the shift to go mobile and work from home and online, did that, i.e. the pandemic, did that actually kind of potentially help?
That helped us. Actually, if it wasn't for the pandemic, there's probably a good thought that this platform would never exist. People would have never have thought before the pandemic that they would be doing telemedicine and working with their doctors over their phone or getting a prognosis over the internet. Because now telemedicine is an industry, the same thing happened to the accounting industry. Everybody said, hey, I don't have to sit 2 hours across from my accountant in person. I can actually sit down and transmit my data from my office, from my house, and have somebody do it in another state instead of, say, possibly here in Greenville. All right, thank you very much.